Good evening and welcome to Gunner Shot. Today we're going to talk of the Pakistan Army and it being the ultimate extra constitutional authority. और इस चीज के बारे में बात करने के लिए हमारे साथ हैं जनरल गौतम मूर्ति. Sir, good evening and welcome to Gunner Shot.
Good evening. Thank you, General Shankar. Yes.
Good evening and welcome to Gunner Shot.
Good evening. Thank you, General Shankar. Yes.
So we're getting some resound from your end.
Yeah. I'm switching off to YouTube. Sorry. Yeah. So thank you very much for having me. And on behalf of the Current and Strategic Affairs Forum, CASA, thank you for conducting this dialogue.
Thanks a lot, sir. We are continuing with this dialogue of current and strategic affairs, CASA. And today we are talking of the Pakistan Extra Constitutional Authority and the ultimate extra constitutional authority. Why have you said this? Why did you choose this topic of it being the ultimate extra constitutional authority?
This is a question that is best answered by the aphorism that we have heard all along during our service, which is that every nation has an army, but in Pakistan, the army has a nation. I mean, ever since we were growing up in our early years going to school, we knew that the president of Pakistan, in our general knowledge, was Field Marshal, self-styled Field Marshal Ayub Khan. I mean, that was our first conscious exposure as little children to Pakistan. And today we know the man behind the scenes who's actually running the show is General Asim Munir, the Chief of Army Staff of Pakistan. Nothing has changed in the last 75 odd years.
तो इसका मतलब यह है कि 75 साल में पाकिस्तान में कुछ बदला नहीं और पाकिस्तान आर्मी जो है वो ऊपर ही रहा है और वो इट्स बियॉन्ड द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन और इनफैक्ट many of us believe that it is the constitution, right? And right from Ayub Khan time to Asim Munir's time. And in between, we've had Pervez Musharraf and Ziaul Haq and Yahya Khan and all that. And इन्होंने आधा देश तो खो दिया और बाकी आधा देश जो बचा है ये जो the present crop of generals, Asim Munir and company, are ready to gamble away. Okay, in this context, I think, sir, it is important that we examine why is this the extra constitutional authority and how has it become? And in the recent past, this has become the ultimate extra constitutional. I mean, Pakistan Army was always an extra constitutional authority, but in the recent past, it has become the ultimate one. My first question to you is there any parallel in the world for this kind of a extra constitutional authority in any army?
There have been army coups in countries like Argentina and elsewhere, but then that was the flavors in the 50s and the 60s in Chile. But then democratic dispensations have asserted themselves. To understand the present context and why we say it is the ultimate extra constitutional authority, one needs to delve a bit into history. You see, Jinnah was the first Governor General. He concentrated all the executive, legislative, and political powers into himself. He reduced the powers of the Prime Minister and increased the powers of the military and the bureaucracy. Are you aware, and I would like your viewers to know this, that Jinnah also rejected the formation of political parties due to the fear that they destroy and capture what the Muslim League has achieved. We all know that the Muslim League achieved the state of Pakistan, East and West Pakistan. And this was a view adopted later on after Jinnah's death by Liaquat Ali Khan, who was the first prime minister, and who claimed that any other parties that are formed are parties of traitors, liars, and hypocrites. So, in addition to the concentration of power, the early deaths of Jinnah and Liaquat Ali Khan also impacted the process towards the transition towards democracy. You know, you compare it to India. Although Mahatma Gandhi was assassinated and we faced the trauma of partition, we had very tall leaders like Pandit Nehru, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, Maulana Azad, and so many, Mr. Ambedkar, Baba Sahib Ambedkar, and so many others, luminaries who guided us into the secular, very strong democratic country that we are. So, the reason again is that the Pakistani army, soon after independence, we know about the war that they launched to capture Kashmir with the raiders. That proved unsuccessful. They were not able to do it. The Maharaja acceded to India, and only after the instrument of accession was signed did India send her troops, and that is history that we all know. But from the beginning, the Pakistani army was in control, and soon after the assassination of Liaquat Ali Khan, there were, you would find it hard to believe, but between the period of 1951 to 1958, Pakistan appointed 7 prime ministers, but there was only one commander-in-chief. That time he was not COS, commander-in-chief, self-styled Field Marshal Ayub Khan. So in a period of 7 years, the general did not change. Pakistan saw 7 prime ministers. Now, how did it become an extra constitutional authority? They've used the constitution to become an extra constitutional authority, to give it a fig leaf of a legal framework. There is something called a doctrine of necessity. In law, it was established somewhere in the medieval times, which says based on which extraordinary actions by the administrative authority, which are designed to restore order and uphold fundamental principles, are considered lawful, even if such action contravenes the established constitution. This is exactly what you're showing, this doctrine of necessity.
It
So
provides
even if
justification for
it
government
provides,
actions taken during an
yes,
emergency, even if they are otherwise illegal.
illegal, even if it contravenes established constitution, laws, norms, conventions, everything, which in effect says that I am providing myself a fig leaf of a legal clause under which I can do what I want as an institution. This was again challenged in 1954, but the Pakistani Chief Justice then validated the extra constitutional use of emergency powers by the then Governor General Ghulam Mohammed. Now in 1958, 54 to 58, Pakistan went through a lot of internal turmoil. Tremendous amount of problems they had. They were facing insurgents, they were facing scarcity of consumer goods, rising prices, shortages. The first 5-year plan was not passed till 1958. And then General Ayub Khan initiated martial law because he used the bogey of India. Although India was absolutely silent during that period, he used the bogey of India and initiated martial law to say that, and appointed himself as the chief martial law administrator. There is a Pakistani scholar. Now, whatever I am telling you, and in fact, I should have made this clear right in the beginning, that whatever I am saying, I have taken from Pakistani sources only. I said for this discussion, I am not going to use any Indian source. I'm not going to use any Western source. I'm going to use only Pakistani sources. From
So these are all
Pakistani media.
facts.
This are absolute facts and from Pakistanis. I am just
Okay.
consolidated what the Pakistanis themselves have had to say, and I am putting it across to you and your audience. So,
First class.
so this is one thing which I wanted to say in the
No,
beginning,
no,
and I
that's
would like to say. Now,
yeah.
there is a scholar called Hina Altaf. She's done a great study and published in a university abroad, but she has done the study. And she has said that the military came to power because A, act, lack of effective political leadership. Second, the heavy reliance on the military to address internal as external factors. And third is the downfall of the economy. This is in a study. Now, Ayub Khan, who served initially from 1958, he sent the president. You see, the president Iskandar Mirza appointed him. But he sent the president to exile and himself became president in 1962 to 69. Draw a parallel. What did Musharraf do? He sent the prime minister into exile. Draw a parallel. What did General Bajwa do? Again, he sent the same prime minister into exile. So, can you see history repeating itself at regular intervals? Can you see what Bajwa did again? General Bajwa did again. He sent Imran Khan to jail. He, meaning with the help of the National
Yeah,
Assembly,
and
first pushed him out. When I say he, I mean as an extra constitutional
the
authority.
same thing
The
Zia
buck
did.
stops with him.
Zia did with Bhutto.
Zia, I was going to say that, not only sent him to jail, but ensured
He
that he
hung
was
him.
hanged. He hanged. So,
Yeah,
this is history repeating itself. So, under Ayub Khan, the military established an alliance with the bureaucracy to govern the country. And then what they did was they divided the country into various zones and had in each zone a military administrator, military martial law administrator, and a sub martial law administrator. Now, the belief in the Pakistan army and is at the senior leadership. And here I want to also bring out a difference between the senior leadership and the junior and the middle leadership. I have been studying the Pakistan Army for many years, and as you are aware, and your viewers may be aware, I've had an opportunity to interact with Pakistani officers as Secretary NDC, and also have visited Pakistan in that capacity along with my wife, the commandant, and his wife. And let me tell you, we had a wonderful interaction. It was a very useful visit, and one got to see the professional level of the mid level. I went there as a brigadier. I've seen mid level Pakistani army officers and I've seen them functioning. Now, what happens when they reach to a very senior level and start interacting with the politicians is another matter altogether. I've also, as an aside, let me tell you, I've had the pleasure of meeting General Bajwa when he was a brigadier there, and he himself walked up to me and shook my hands and welcomed me to Pakistan and told me, how much he respects Indian Army officers for their professionalism. He had served in Congo. At that time, General Bikram Singh was the force commander there, and General Bajwa was the deputy force commander. And he sent his regards through me to General Bikram Singh, who was at that time our corps commander in Srinagar. I could make out that he had genuine professional respect for Indian Army officers. And the number of other officers who came up to me and told me how they served on UN missions. And when I have interacted with our own Army officers who have served on UN missions, there is a lot of mutual professional respect at mid level and junior level. But what happens when the 3-star rank is achieved, and that also 3 stars? When they start interacting with politicians. I have had the opportunity to meet a very fine gentleman, a 3-star officer of the Pakistan Army, who was the president NDU at that time, General Hanif Mohammed. Very fine professional, and one could interact a lot with him. And he was nowhere involved in the political rigmarole of Pakistan, and we had no discussions on the Pakistan political setup at all. It was only on how they were facing terrorism and how terrorism has affected them. I wanted to bring this out primarily to tell you that at this absolutely senior level, the Chief of Army Staff level, the interaction becomes completely different, because then he is actually vested with the powers and he uses the powers to the fullest extent. So under Ayub Khan, when this started off in a very big way, but ultimately, like all strong military regimes, minor challenges to the military regime become major challenges. People get fed up of what is happening to them, and then political parties also come about, and the person has to step down. This happened with General Ayub Khan in 1968, happened with General Yahya Khan. General Ziaul Haq, of course, died in a crash. It happened with General Musharraf. So, at some point in time, the democratic forces try and exert themselves, push out an unpopular dictator, get into power, but their own internecine squabbling, their own fights among themselves brings back another military leader into the equation. Now, if you see what has happened, I will not talk so much about the Yaha regime. We know what had happened and how East Pakistan split from West Pakistan. They all blame India for it, but many Pakistani scholars have blamed their own leadership for this. I've read the Hamidur Khan report. It is very clear that the leadership of Pakistan failed them. India was flooded with refugees. We know what happened. We went all over, and then ultimately there was an attack by Pakistan on our airfields, and it was war. Following that debacle, there were many changes in the military high command. They placed a chief of army staff, naval staff, and air staff under the command of joint chief of staffs, with the president of Pakistan as commander in chief. Now, how much power does the chairman, joint chief of staff exercises today? We all know. He is just kept there. He is a four-star, but that is about all. So then they made a constitution in 1943 which focused on pushing the military back to its traditional field and laid down roles for the military in the constitution. Now, 73 constitution wanted the military to stay out of political affairs. But again, there were problems. And when there were problems, when the police could not sort it out, especially in Karachi, Hyderabad, and Lahore, in 1977, Bhutto imposed martial law. Now, the politician himself gave an opening to the army. The Prime Minister himself told, Ajo. And when you open the door ajar and the army stepped in, then the army stepped in with full powers. There was a Pakistan National Alliance, the opposition parties. They had all kinds of issues, and the continuous use of the military to control people's movements did not just place the military in a bad position, but also the government. And therefore, due to problems, General Ziaul Haq, whom Bhutto made as a chief by superseding many generals, came into power and sacked Mr. Bhutto. Parallel drawn, General Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif appointed Musharraf, superseding a couple of officers, thinking he was pliable. Musharraf did the same thing to him. So something happens when they reach that position, which is inexplicable, because there's only one Pakistani chief, General Musa, who's written his memoirs, and that is mainly about the war and nothing else. General Ayub Khan, of course, had written something, Friends Not Masters. It was more about foreign relationships. But the fact remains is that all Pakistani chiefs, after exercising tremendous power, literally ride off into the sunset. They're not seen or heard again. No interviews, no nothing. You don't get to know what happens to them. Now, the martial law of Ziaul Haq actually maximized military control. We know about this Islamization drive. He became chief martial law administrator, arrested leaders, hanged Bhutto, issued several white papers saying how Bhutto rigged the elections, all coming from the ISI. Drawing a parallel again, all the charges against Imran Khan have sprung from the ISI. All the charge sheets, the material that was fed and to the prosecution, and that is how Imran Khan finds himself in jail for committing the same sins that the other politicians have committed. Though Imran Khan denies having done anything else, he is still seen as incorruptible because he is not seen to have made any money other than this Toshakana case which is against him. It is the same military that has sent Nawaz Sharif out because of corruption, has brought him back, him and his family back. How do you explain this? That is the enigma that we are trying to understand. In Pakistan, what happens, we really do not know at that highest level, but suffice to say that the army is fully in charge. Now, martial law brings with it certain unwanted problems, like the Western powers, on whom they are hugely dependent on aid, will not give aid. The IMF will not give aid. They'll be down. There will be cries for restoration of democracy. But if there is a threat, like what happened when Russia invaded the USSR, former USSR invaded Afghanistan, General Zia received over $3.2 billion from Washington, and he managed to escape all the pressures. No return to democracy, no human rights, nothing of the sort. He launched all his nuclear programs on the quiet. There is another thing that happens. When the military decides to withdraw from power, that announcement is made by one chief, but the other chief does not honor that announcement. General Mirza Aslam Beg, after General Zia's death in the crash, announced his withdrawal from military politics and allowed Ghulam Isha Khan to serve as interim president. But afterwards, you know what happened in the late 80s and 90s. Now again, General Bajwa made that famous, we have discussed it, that we shall not get involved in politics at all. He made a statement to the media, to the press, in a seminar, saying very clear, I'm adamant, he used the word adamant about it. But what has happened after that, General Shankar? And today, what you find is that the Pakistani army is doing the driving with that fig leaf, and they added another fig leaf. May I request you to show the slide about the 2023 amendment before the
Yeah,
elections?
yeah.
Please,
I'll
we
just
need to see this. And if you could just explain this, General Shankar, yourself.
yeah. I'll explain it. 1 minute, sir. Okay. Now these are the amendments which have been passed in 2023, and this is what makes Pakistan Army completely extra constitutional. So what is it? The 2023 Pakistan Army Amendment Bill, it says it grants legal status to the military business empire, and it criminalizes any criticism and empire. It criminalizes criticism of the armed forces. So that means if you are against the armed force, you criticize the armed force, you're a criminal, and gives the military the authority to carry out activities related to national development. So it has entered the civilian sphere. Okay, then you have the 2023 Official Secrets Act Amendment Bill. It gives security agencies the power to arrest anyone they believe to be a threat. And then the Pakistan Army Act. It allows the military to put military personnel on trial under the military's own legal code in some case, this law applies also to civilians. This is what Asim Munir tried to put on the civilians post the May 9 this thing. Now, certain things I want to highlight. Just think this Official Secrets Act or the bill, amendment bill. What has it done? It has broadened the definitions of military installations and brought digital and modern means of communication into the law's ambit. इसका मतलब यह है कि vloggers and bloggers are within the ambit of the law. Now, the definition of a document has been widened. It includes any written, unwritten, electronic, digital, or any other tangible or intangible instrument related to the military's procurement and capability. So, there is no way you can escape this. Then the definition of the enemy has been amended. Who's an enemy as per this bill? In our case, it's very clear. The enemy is someone who's from outside. In this, it says any person who is directly or indirectly, intentionally or unintentionally working for or engaged with a foreign power, foreign agent, non-state actor, organization, entity, association, or group guilty of a particular act prejudicial to the safety and interest of Pakistan. That it gives anyone. It's a blanket. They can put anyone under this and get away with it. Then you see the Pakistan Army Amendment Act of Army Act Amendment 2023. Okay, the Pakistan Army Act and the Indian Army Act are almost the same. Only thing is this has been amended suitably to make the Army Act extra constitutional. One of the amendments in the Act accords more powers to the Army Chief and bars ex-servicemen from engaging in politics as well as taking up ventures, which could come into conflict with the Army's interests. So, no ex-serviceman. If I today talk against the Indian Army, as per, and if this law existed in India, I can be booked. Okay? And it also proposed imprisonment for defamation of the army. If I defame the army, I can be taken to task. So all these give the whole thing. Then they have something called the Provisional Constitutional Order, popularly known as PCO. And this is what they use during emergencies, right? It is an emergency and extra constitutional order that suspends either wholly or partially the Constitution of Pakistan. So PCO के साथ सब कुछ हो सकता है. And it fulfills and acts as a temporary order while the constitution is held in abeyance or suspension. So if you see that all these things give them that extra constitutional authority which General Moorthy was talking of. So I would like to ask and highlight, ask a few questions to highlight an issue which, based on what you have said so far.
Just one second.
Yeah.
Second. May I just add to something that you said? This Pakistani Army Act, civilians being tried under it, is not something new. It is what Field Marshal Ayub Khan brought in, and it has been used. And even when Imran Khan was the Prime Minister, there were about 100 odd people who have been tried under the Pakistani Army Act for various things. So this act exists in Pakistan. This is only an amendment that they made it to make it even more stricter. And now you can't escape, as you said, you can't escape from the clutches of either the Official Secret Act or the Army Act. All the bloggers and the vloggers of Pakistan are vlogging from foreign countries. All articles against this are from foreign countries. Nobody dare write an article against the army in Pakistan today.
Pakistan. Okay. Now, what I want to put across is, from what you have said and what you have defined, whatever has happened in Pakistan. I mean, it's very clear that the Pakistan army has now become the biggest political force in Pakistan. It is completely politicized at the top. Whatever they say is the politics of Pakistan, right? And in this, like you said, they have the military, the bureaucracy, and the judiciary as a nexus to manipulate the political system, which is unique. In our country, there is no question of a military and a bureaucracy or a military or a judiciary. In fact, we don't have any contact with the judiciary at all.
Absolutely.
Okay. we have no contact. वो तो I've never known, I've never seen a Supreme Court judge when I was in service sitting in army headquarters. वो कभी कभी मिल लेते थे, but उसके बारे में कुछ जानकारी होता नहीं था. But here, the Pakistan army is complicit with the judiciary in fixing the politicians. उसके साथ उसको मदद करने वाला है bureaucracy. Okay. Now, since, like you said, the international organization and institutions frowned upon the constant takeover and constant,
Yeah.
martial laws. So, what the Pakistani army has now done is a hybrid system of martial law, where the army chief fixes the politics and the politics runs as per the army chief, right? And in this, like you rightly said, the ISI and the ISPR are the tools, the main fixers in this whole game. They fix the political game, and the army is behind, and they do backseat driving. And you quoted so many examples which have enabled the current law to do what they're doing based on what they've done, with the advantage they are no more martial law administrators. They don't have to go through the post problem of, see,
True.
historically, whether it's Ayub Khan or Yahya Khan or Ziaul Haq or Pervez Musharraf, post their martial law administration, they have come under severe criticism from within. Okay, but in this current configuration, they will not even be blamed for it. It is
Correct.
the
Whom do you
politicians
criticize? Yes.
whom do you criticize?
Whom do
The
you criticize?
government is being run by the politicians. These steps are fixing the politicians, but whenever the politician doesn't deliver, he is thrown out and a new set brought in. But no one, he is this. People are now above criticism, and that I think makes them above the constitution. So I want your views on this. This is a very interesting thing which there's no parallel in the world.
That's exactly what you're discussing. There is no parallel in the world. We started this discussion with this. China has a constitution in which the CCP, the party, has assumed powers. Right. Now, that's also an autocratic way. But over here, under the garb of democracy, you have the army which is ruling the roost. And it is, you scratch my back and I'll scratch yours, more than scratching back. They are in an embrace that they can't leave. The army has embraced the politicians have embraced the army. The politicians want, other than Imran Khan, he's the only outlier so far. And we will
Okay.
discuss more on Imran Khan because he's the only one who stood up to the military and is still seen standing up, despite he's also made his overtures. It's not that he's not made overtures, but his people have been threatened, his people have been arrested, they've given sworn affidavits that they will not interfere in politics. I mean, he has been pushed out.
Right. So fine, sir. So let us come to the present condition, because so far we have discussed what has happened before and how
Yes.
Pakistan army has uh, assumed a higher level of extra constitutional authority. Now let us examine the current state of play. How is it that this the kind of extra constitutional authority it is today? Your views on it, and you have some tweets of Imran Khan, I believe, and we can go through that.
Yes. So the streets of Imran Khan, you see, Imran
Should I put it
Khan's
on?
no, not as yet. Well, I'll
Okay.
just take 2 minutes and I'll
Yeah.
take. See, Imran Khan's trajectory followed the same of Nawaz Sharif. Nawaz Sharif was propped up, was made a prime minister. Okay. And he took over, but when he took over as prime minister, he tried to sideline the military. And you saw what happened. Benazir Bhutto won her elections, came, but she was sacked. Why? Because she tried to change the DGISI. See the parallels. Benazir Bhutto, that is why I said let's look deeper and deeper into the history. Why did this happen? Why was Benazir sacked? Why was Nawaz Sharif sacked? It all boils down to because the ISI has got their tentacles really deep. One DGISI retired man tried to write a book or wrote a book along with a director of RAW, Mr. Dullat and General Durrani. What has happened? He faced an inquiry, his pension was stopped. The institution is unforgiving. You bring in a politician, the politician decides to actually say what democracy is. And then this is what happens. Can you imagine a case in India where a posting proposal of a chief is not approved by the prime minister or the defense minister and then the prime minister, and the prime minister is thrown out? I mean, it's inconceivable. It's inconceivable that a prime minister wants a particular general in a place, the chief of army staff doesn't want him in that place, he wants somebody else, and the chief doesn't get changed, the posting order goes through, and the prime minister changes. The prime minister is thrown out. So Imran Khan initially was in bed with the army. He was doing whatever the army told him. But slowly, as he started asserting himself, he became very, very unpopular with the military, but became very popular on the street. And after his ouster, he realized the power of the street. We have discussed, you and I and General Atta and all of us on your channel, whether this was in May, what happened on 9th of May last year was Pakistan's Arab Spring. We all thought, many of us thought, but astute observers like General Atta Hasnain said, no, the army will not let this happen. It took a while for the army to get back. General Asim Munir had just taken over. And let me tell you something about General Asim Munir. He is perceived by all Pakistanis, and I'm saying all, as incorruptible, very religious, and a very straightforward man. That is his image. And he's using that image. He has eased out some of the corps commanders. Some have faced court martials. And things happen in Pakistan which would never happen anywhere. Last year, about 13 or 14 officers of the Pakistan Air Force were court martialed because they wrote a white paper listing out the corruption, uh, deeds of corruption by their chief of air staff, and they were court-martialed and given RI, including their deputy chief of air staff. Does this happen in any country? If a man is proved to be corrupt, he is thrown out. It is not that he throws out the whistleblowers. The whistleblowers are in jail. So the power of the Pakistan army, we have not spoken about the Navy and the Air Force, but this is the first time that the Air Force came up. And last year it was shocking when this happened. I was shocked when I was following this and the whole trial and everything else. Very terse comments came on in social media, in Twitter about what has happened to them. Otherwise, there was nothing. It was blacked out. So coming back to Imran Khan, so Imran Khan didn't go quietly riding into the sunset. He led this campaign, and events came to a head in May 2023 when the army said enough is enough and took charge. And then again, under the Army Act, trying all these civilians, despite the Supreme Court. And the case is in court, and there's a lot of thing going on. But the fact remains is that the army is firmly in control of what is happening in Pakistan, whether it's the economy, whether it's internal security, external security, foreign affairs, for everything, the army is in control.
Yeah, there's no doubt about what you're saying, sir. In fact, this is my opinion that Imran Khan was probably one of the only
Only outlier,
politicians
yes.
in the recent past who has who stood up to the army. And then the army felt that if this man comes to power or remains in power, he'll send the army back to the barracks. And therein, the entire, you know, uh, the power of the army would collapse. Now, take into consideration that there were a few presidents like Bhutto, Benazir Bhutto trying, and even Nawaz Sharif tried it, and they failed. But here, this man probably had a stronger motive and a stronger knowing his own characteristic, the Pakistan army felt completely endangered. So, what have the Pakistan army done? They've first taken him out for good so that he never comes back into the political reckoning. Even if he comes back into the political reckoning, he will be a marginal player. And now with these amendment acts, whether it's the 2000, I mean, 2023, with the Pakistan Army Act amendment, the amendment bill, and the official secret acts which they have amended, all this in the past 1 year. Now they have put themselves in a impregnable position. उनको कोई हटा नहीं सकता. Now there's no question of his, Asim Munir and his gang going away, right? And now with the judge Isa, he's seeking extension, and he will get an extension only if the Pakistan Army chief desires so. Also, the air chief is now seeking an extension. I think he's been given an extension also, right?
Yes.
So, so as a result, all these extensions, everything are granted by the army chief, and they're rubber stamped by the president. So, virtually, the level of this extra constitutional authority of the Pakistan army has gone up by a notch. I would like your views on this because this has now gone to some level which is much higher than what it was earlier.
Okay. As I mentioned to you earlier just now, that May 2023 was some sort of a point, inflection point within the Pakistan army. We had seen how the houses got raided. We've written about it. You've written, I've written about it. There was something serious going on. There was a deep divide. We've done an episode on could there be a mutiny, but we came to the conclusion that in the Pakistan army it is just not possible. You see, you've got, let us face it, you've got 11 corps commanders, right? Now, or lieutenant generals. Now, they are the power behind the throne. The throne is one. Even if someone wants to oust an unpopular chief, he will get wind from it through one or the other. There is no question of 11 or even 2 or 3 of them conspiring against him. There is enough of information, there's enough grapevine to tell him what is happening. So, the only way people in the Pakistan army could express their dissent was the election on February 8th. And we saw what happened. Leads of Imran Khan's people, all the way fighting as independents, they were jailed, they were put apart, people were given, of the same family were given different polling booths to go to. They went through, the army tried everything within its power, but we know that Imran Khan, heart of hearts, has won the elections. The people were with him. Now, this has also affected the military leadership in Pakistan, affected their thinking. That is why they've closed ranks. They've closed ranks behind Shahbaz Sharif. They've closed ranks behind Zardari. They want this so-called limping government to keep limping forward. And Imran Khan is firing salvos. His latest salvo from jail. Can you please show that, what he has tweeted after his meeting?
1 minute.
Yes, 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 yes. Yes, please.
Yeah. He says the entire nation is aware that General Asim Munir is driving the state of affairs. It was him, General Asim Munir, who implicated me and my wife in the Tosha Kenar reference in an attempt to stifle my spirits. Let it be known that if anything happens to me or my wife, it will be him who will be responsible. The London plan was plotted with the nexus of General Asim Munir and Nawaz Sharif. And in order to execute it, judges were onboarded and they were appointed by the ISI. And the ISI forced Inam Shah and an employee of Tosha Khana to become witnesses against me. Yeah,
General Shankar, one more point I have to tell you on
yeah,
this, something interesting. I want your viewers to be aware of the fact that General Asim Munir, when he was a Lieutenant General, was DG ISI, and it was when Mr. Imran Khan was the Prime Minister, he was removed from the post of DG ISI. Go back to Benazir Bhutto's era. She tried to remove the DG ISI. You saw what happened to her. Again, the second time, Mr. Imran Khan tried to remove the DGISI. You saw he was finally thrown out. Now this has come back to hit him. So look at the connections. I'm just trying to make the connections. Look at the London plan. Again, when Benazir Bhutto was in power, it was called the Night of the Jackals, wherein a few people got together, the ISI, a couple of politicians, they sat together and they tried to the names they were leading ISI officers, the opposition National Assembly PPP members. They got some people. A secret meeting was held for for the removal of ISI by the Benazir government, and it failed. Now this sort of thing keeps happening in Pakistan. You cannot, the politicians realize they cannot touch the ISI. That
right.
is how powerful that institution is. Yes,
Okay.
please.
Yeah, the next tweet is the CJP is prioritizing Faizabad, Dharna, and Bhutto cases, but has turned a blind eye to the fact that innocent civilians are incarcerated in military prisons. Right? There's a second tweet or a series of tweets he's put on. The next thing, of course, which he said, what happened in East Pakistan is being replicated here. Mujibur Rahman's mandate was stolen and the country was split into two. Mujib's majority would have diminished Yahya Khan's power. The Hamudur Rahman Commission report clearly states that Mujibur Rahman had won the elections. As had happened in East Pakistan, our mandate has been stolen to control us. Now the king is covertly handling the affairs while Mohsin Naqvi is operating as a viceroy. Meanwhile, Shahbaz Sharif commands no power. Your comments on this, when your views on what this thing is.
What has he said? What is wrong in what he has said?
No, no, I
It
completely
is
agree with
the
him.
Hamdo Rahman Commission report, which I have read, portions of it that are out in the open domain, clearly states that Mujibur Rahman had won the elections. Now also the controversy between Form 45 and Form 48. If people are even today in Pakistan saying if you count the Form 45s, God knows how many of them are still around, but if you had counted them, in a number of cases, the results would be reversed, would be overturned.
Right.
So,
So that
yes,
gets me to a question.
yes, please.
Yeah, the question is, uh, Pakistan, the government has formed. Now they're looking at the, IMF for the next loan and all that. The question is, has Pakistan moved beyond this, and forgotten about it, or is there something simmering underneath? That's a question because that will what will create problems.
You see, this is a very difficult question to answer even by the keenest observers of Pakistan. Uh, Imran Khan is showing that he still has something, but he's probably fighting a losing battle as each day wears on. The if the IMF loan comes through, people have recognized have congratulated the Prime Minister of Pakistan on being sworn in. Nobody has congratulated him on being elected. There is a huge difference. And this kind of setup will hobble along. They need to improve the economy. There is no doubt about it. All of them realize. And the Chief of Army Staff is on board, is on that board of that the committee. They will continue in this manner by getting loans, but unless they make some very difficult choices of reining in inflation, reining in and taxing the people, including themselves, this will just muck around in the same manner. 1 year down the
Okay,
line, we could be having the same conversation and not knowing where it is going. But
right.
there's one thing I'm going to stick my neck out on, and if I'm going to be around, in another 5 years, I don't think this government will last for 5 years, and
Five
there'll
is
be
too long.
elections at the end of 5 years.
And
I'm willing
5 years
to
is
stick
too
my
much.
I'm willing to stick my neck out on that.
Okay, let's see where it goes. And then when we were in power, the military was held in high regard by the people of Pakistan. The image was tarnished when they sided with the crooks. Zardari and Sharif families' corruption was also exposed by ASI and Bajwa. Yeah, we all know that
Uh, Panama Papers.
the number what for many reasons the
Yes,
Pakistani army has lost the trust of the people. I think to that extent I feel there is a lot of unease at the bottom. There's a lot of disconnect with the bottom. So anytime anything could happen, one doesn't know, right? Okay.
you
Then
see,
of course,
just one memo
yeah,
over here. I would like to add just one thing small. He referred to the chief of army staff as a king. Let's take
yeah,
back to the medieval ages when there were kings who were ruling. Now, a king was a useless king, was a horrible king. You had no choice. The people had no choice but to put up with him, hoping against hope that the next king or the king's son who succeeds him would be better. But in Pakistan, the king who will succeed the king will be yet another king, or in the same mold of the same institution. And when you're talking about extension, General Asim Munir has 1.5 years to retire, yet there is talk that he's seeking an extension now. Why would he be seeking an extension when he has 1.5 years to retire? And this is from
yeah, I agree
Pakistani
with you.
sources. From
Yeah, yeah, I
Pakistani
agree with you.
sources.
So yeah,
Thank
they
you.
just want to become. They don't want to get off that perch of being the ultimate extra constitutional authority. And this, of course, says before General Asim Munir's appointment, a message was sent through Arif Alvi that we are not your enemies. He called Asim Munir we called Asim Munir through Arif Alvi to inquire about his London plan. Ali Zaidi was also in contact, and through him, a message was sent to remain neutral and let the country run. We were told not to worry and that they would remain neutral. I will not accept anyone's slavery and would prefer death over it. On a question from a journalist, the founder Imran Khan, asking if he had any hope for Chief Justice Qazi Faiz Isa, Imran Khan remained silent for a while and then said, the nation is witnessing everything. I don't want to comment on it. The country has changed today and people are cognizant. We were deceived and through a false flag operation on 9th May. There was an attempt to portray us as traitors, but the nation clearly rejected the narrative and on February 8th showed where it stands. So this is quite interesting. So it just shows how things have been
Yes.
manipulated and everything. This thing. So we've gone through the whole gamut of how Pakistan is not only an extra constitutional authority, it is the ultimate extra constitutional authority without a parallel. There's no other parallel anywhere in the world I can think of where such extra constitutional authority is vested in the institution, and that institution is controlled by a person called the Chief of Army Staff. And with each passing Chief of Army Staff, this extra constitutional authority has become stronger and it has become more impregnable. And right. And on the other
True.
hand, you find the rest of the second rung, the bureaucracy and the judiciary, are more beholden to this extra constitutional authority. and the politicians are then at the whim and fancy of this thing. And I think this state of affairs is going to continue. So if you have anything else to say, fine. Otherwise, I'll take questions.
Well, I lastly would like to quote what Benazir Bhutto had said long ago, and she had said that about the Pakistan army, that they have power without responsibility and accountability, and that is a fact.
Yeah,
So, having unstable civilian governments actually helps the Pakistan army. They do
yeah,
not want a strong, voted good majority civilian government, because then that civilian government will exert itself. And the
yeah,
raison d'etre for being in power is, of course, the bogeyman India, though they very well know that, that India is not the enemy. They're losing more men to, in the last 10 years, to
yeah,
terrorism within their country, to their own monsters that they have created, than to India.
yeah. Yeah, I agree with you completely, sir. So we'll start taking questions.
Yes,
The
please.
first question is, over 75 years, this geography called Pakistan has remained true to its role of being the military outpost in the underbelly of Russia, earlier used by the British and now by the USA. Your views?
He's missed out China.
China. Yeah, I agree with you.
So no, you're absolutely right. Now you see what has happened. Uh, the US has, of course, made their statements against what they feel is a stolen election, but they have recognized this government. This government will get the IMF loan. Pakistan army has, there are still drones overflying Afghanistan and hitting at targets. The US very much needs Pakistan. China needs Pakistan. Despite all the problems CPEC is facing, China needs Gwadar. China needs the highway. So Pakistan will continue to remain relevant to the US, to China, to Central Asian republics. Again, they're all landlocked, to Russia to an extent. So Pakistan is blessed by its geography, but then there's another issue that is facing them, which is climate change, which even geography cannot help. But that's
Yeah,
another subject
that's
altogether.
for other. Okay, this question is, sir, in India, politicians and bureaucrats control our armed forces. But in Pakistan, military controls politicians and bureaucrats. Why so? We've explained this. So this question we don't take. Does India need military establishment like Pakistan? That's a more interesting question, I think.
Not at all, not at all, never.
Yeah,
We've done our time in the armed forces. We are very proud of our armed forces being completely apolitical. We are very proud of our senior military leadership. We are proud of our democratic institutions. We are proud of our government. Uh, there may be one or two issues that you may have a few differences upon in within the ministry, but that is more related to day-to-day functioning. On policy matters, I think we are all on board. We are completely apolitical, and we look up to our civilian government.
right. There's no question of this. This is out of ये सवाल जो है ना वो थोड़ा आउट ऑफ सिलेबस है हमारे सोच के तरफ से. Don't worry.
हम जवाब नहीं दे सकते ऐसे.
इसमें कोई जवाब ही नहीं है क्योंकि वो ये आउट कंप्लीटली आउट ऑफ सिलेबस है ये. वो सोच बहुत दूर है वो. Okay, do you think another martial law is coming in future as public seems to be angry and bashing the army freely in public and inability to handle external challenges from their past sins?
You don't need a martial law. You're already under martial law. I've told you, we have just explained, General Shankar and I, about the fig leaves uh, that have been given to them. They are very
Yeah.
much a part of the establishment. They're running the establishment. So there is no question of having another martial law. If
They don't
Shahbaz,
need a martial law.
they,
In
you
fact,
don't
this is
need
a
a
more
martial law.
convenient. This is a
This
more
is
convenient
this
system. By
hybrid model.
which the hybrid model is more convenient. Okay, why this notion in Pak that general army general is like father of the nation? Can this notion in Pak ever go away, especially in Pak Punjab, which constitutes 70% of the Pak army by ethnic composition?
How can this notion go away? They are running the show, and it may not be a Punjabi general. Musharraf was not Punjabi; he was a Muhajir. So it is the power vested in the institution in the chair of Chief of Army Staff. That kind of power is not seen anywhere in the world, in any Chief of Army Staff,
It is the way
anywhere.
they
You
have,
take
yeah, it is the way the Pakistan army has become extra constitutional over time, much above the constitution of the nation, right? And the gap between that authority which they have usurped and the authority in which is actually vested in them in the constitution has become too big, and this can't be
yes.
changed. That's the problem.
This gap has to be
Okay,
first legally narrowed.
narrowed, and you
Legally narrowed.
or a political phenomenon like Imran Khan has to come destroy. See, you have to understand one thing which I like to explain to everyone. Why does Pakistan army continue to survive and thrive in Pakistan? The fear with Pakistan, everyone in Pakistan is if Pakistan army doesn't step in, Pakistan will collapse. It
Will break
holds
up.
Pakistan together. That is
Yes.
the reason why it draws that extra constitutional authority. The point is, it was Imran Khan in the recent past who dared to stand up and said, I will reverse the whole thing and I'll send these people back to the barracks. Or he threatened to send the people back to the barracks. If he did succeed in that, then Pakistan probably, ये तो I'm now, थोड़ा अपना अनुमान लगा रहा हूँ. Probably Pakistan economy would have collapsed. Probably the army would have been emasculated. Probably many institutions would have collapsed, but you would have had a very strong leader in the form of Imran Khan, right? Much like Bhutto. And probably Pakistan would have gone through a lot of tribulations, but he would have finished off the army, which Bhutto also couldn't do. After all, Bhutto also became the chief martial law administrator and he used the army to go there. This fellow wouldn't have done that. In such a case, it would have probably 1 or 2, 5, 10 years, Pakistan would have suffered. But that turmoil would have thrown up leaders for Pakistan, which it never
Yes. We have,
could. So
we
that
have discussed.
opportunity is lost. We have
We have
discussed this earlier
this.
also.
Yes, we have discussed this, and we said that this Samudra Manthan would have, churned, would have
Happened.
thrown up
Yeah,
something good. But sorry, not to be. It's
yeah.
continuing to muckle on.
Would there be a power mongering within the army and the infights to reduce the army status? How long can they loot their people?
75 years and counting.
Yeah, they'll continue.
They'll
There is no
continue.
question of power mongering within them because their
See,
hierarchy is clean and everyone gets his spoils.
no, but
Okay, it's a thing.
sorry,
Yeah,
I'd like to say one thing. General Asim Munir, he's been there for over a year and a half now, is still known to be incorruptible. So while they may have been Lieutenant General Bajwa, I'm not talking about Chief of Army Staff Qamar Javed Bajwa, but that Lieutenant General Bajwa, Papa Johns, there have been other things at the lower level. That is probably even he would perhaps allow it to happen to sort of buy their loyalty. And this is a very well honed institution. So certain things are sort of glossed over, overlooked. But if somebody steps out of line, he'll face a court martial. There is no two ways about it. General Munir is a no nonsense general. Let us not underestimate him and his authority.
yeah. Okay. How Pakistan army is able to maintain its legitimacy to govern or respect over its people, in spite of losing all wars, being corrupt, unable to defend Pakistani citizens from terror attacks, and how it becomes stronger than its people and its government.
$1 million question. We have spent the last 1 hour trying to figure this out. And as General Shankar very correctly said, that the people also know that if something happens to this institution, Pakistan can collapse. They can be, at least there is some semblance of order. There'll be absolute disorder then. And Pakistan, as you know, because of their own policies, the place is awash with weapons, awash with fundamentalists, awash with all kinds of eccentrics who could, if the Pakistan army is not there, they would face the brunt. And let me tell you from my own interaction with Pakistani army officers in 2008, 2007 and 8, particularly those years, they actually believe that this terrorism has done huge damage to this country and they have to fight the scourge of terrorism. Dehshat Gardi, Dehshat Gardi, you keep hearing them say. That general told me, I commend him for his professional honesty. He told me this. He says, to fight the Soviets, we have created a Frankenstein's monster, and today we are paying the price. So they are aware, the people of Pakistan are aware that the only institution that can hold them together is the
Is
Pakistan
the
army, despite
okay?
all its faults, despite everything. So that is why they're
Yeah.
still there.
As we can see, India countered effectively the Pak strategy from Zia era of asymmetric warfare and terrorism. What are the options now left with the Pakistan army?
Gray zone warfare, nuclear
Through
card,
China,
through
use
China.
China.
There's
Yeah,
so many options
there's
they
so
have.
many options. About
I,
the Gaza war and the Ukraine war has opened up options for Pakistan army.
I think General Shankar, we ought to discuss these options. I think this is a
Yeah, we'll
very
do that.
interesting question he
Interesting.
has asked, and it deserves a lot of thought and a lot of understanding to figure out what are Pakistan's options in this case, and therefore what would India's options also be. I think this is a great subject for discussion.
Yeah. Uh, oh, this is also interesting. This thing is the Indian army standing as a hurdle in friendship between Indian government and Pakistan army. I don't think it deserves an answer. This laugh is good enough.
But let me tell you one thing. Why is
Hmm.
India not talking to Pakistan? Or even when we were talking to Pakistan, why were we the talks at a bureaucratic level or at a political level? Why not? In the US, whenever a US or any other country, Western country, or China's senior leadership, bureaucratic or political leadership would come to Islamabad, they would make a trip to Rawalpindi to meet the Chief of Army Staff. Why has India not done it? Just think. This is to your viewer. I want to ask him this question.
Yeah,
And if I
Indian
may
army won't
provide an
come.
answer, why is this so? Because we believe as a democratic country, we will speak to democracy, we will not speak to an extra constitutional authority in power.
Yeah,
And that is a very sound reason why successive Indian governments, irrespective of which political party is in power, have refused to interact with the Pakistan army. Military to military is a different matter. A hotline, DGMO speaking to others is a different matter. Us going there for a seminar or some of them coming here for talks is a different matter. Those are military related. I'm not talking about military diplomacy. I'm not talking about even our diplomats talking to each other. I'm talking about why are they not talking to the Pakistan army? Why would our High Commissioner not talk to the Chief of Army Staff there? There is a reason for it. And the reason is that we are a strong democracy. We believe in democratic institutions, and that is the way forward.
yeah. The Pak army also gets its legitimacy from covert support from the US Army as well as other communities that have vested interest in keeping them alive, as well as dependent enough to be manipulated. We completely agree with you. This is something which we didn't touch upon only because we were looking at how Pakistan army has, if not legitimacy, has got the extra constitutional authority. That is
Within
the whole
Pakistan, yeah.
within Pakistan. Okay. Uh, do you think Pakistan is a major nuclear threat to your country in a scenario like nuclear flashpoint. What would you do? What would India do? Your take on this? It's not a nuclear threat. Let me be upfront about it. It's not a nuclear threat at all, right? And Pakistan has to think 100 times before it poses a nuclear threat. Okay, and there's no nuclear flashpoint which is going to happen in a hurry. And we've also dealt with this business of nuclear flashpoint in during Kargil and when we carried out the attack on Jabba Top. Incidentally, so many people, Jabba Top means Balakot. When we carried out the Balakot operation, you must remember we didn't strike at just POK. We went past POK into Pakistan and struck. Jabba Top is in Pakistan proper. At that time also this question didn't come up. And if it does come up, we'll handle the situation squarely. It's not a big thing. Okay. Uh, okay. Okay. There's a nice comment. It says, asked, blessed by geography and cursed by calamity. I think so. He said it nicely.
Yes.
Uh, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Another questions. How come no international outcry regarding Sierra Leone Muslim majority population making drug zombie drug from humans? Is it? Oh, we'll take this off. I didn't.
No, no, no. That's not a.
Not a question. Okay, this is from Muhammad Taj. I think he's from across. I've seen his name before also. All Pakistani generals are corrupt and running their own businesses instead of doing their duties. Imran Khan is only one politician who dared to stop them from doing their wrongdoing. Yeah, that's what I also said. So I agree with you. And okay. Uh, okay, this is also interesting. Let me tell both of you, sir, POK is getting ready to voice against Pak military atrocities in POK. Yeah, we also getting feedback of that,
Yes.
and we are aware of that. But they have to do,
Social
there's,
media is
I think,
active. You see,
yeah, active.
the basic thing is they are seeing what is happening on the other side. The kind of development that has taken place in Jammu and in the Kashmir Valley, particularly ever since the Article 370 has been removed, is tremendous. Uh, we are reading articles written by people. You're not getting hotel rooms. You're not getting anything. The place is booming. Youngsters, Kashmiri youngsters, are seen out at night. Whole families are out on the lake, all over, which was never the case. It is a wonderful experience. There's so many people I know who are going for holidays there and coming back, and their complaint is of the long queues. Their complaint is long queues. Their complaint is that we are getting fleeced. We have to pay extra tatkal amount for every little thing, to jump ahead. So the valley is booming. Touchwood, the Kashmiri people are happy today. They are seeing a sea change, and the people in POK are also viewing this sea change. It won't be far when they demand that their leaders give them a similar life.
Yeah, then we'll see how things pan out.
True.
Right. I think we've finished most of the questions, sir. And all it
Lovely.
requires for me to say is that I think we've had a discussion which is not normal. We're not talking of this thing. We've gone a little, you know, how shall I say, examination point of view as to how Pakistan army has evolved into what it is. Because it's important to understand this. And I'd like to thank General Moorthy for having done this kind of analysis. Because when we spoke, suddenly when we started speaking, we realized we need to do this thinking. I know that this video might not get many views, but for those people who view this video, it is invaluable because it'll give you a lot of ideas and insight into what this Pakistan army is all about, right? And all I'll request is those of you who are seeing it, please like it and right? And
Share
those of you
it.
who are seeing this, share it. And those of you who are watching this for the first time, please, subscribe to Gunner Shot, and also join in as a member, because, like I said, whatever I get out of the membership amount, and what I get out of what you people contribute in terms of your likes and all that, supers and all that, I generally give it off to the girls whom I'm trying to educate. And yeah, Mohammed Saad says, my brother, I am from POK district, Poonch. All the best to you. We hope you have a better future than what you have today, right? Because for the past 70 years, the Pakistan army and the Pakistan politicians have, sold children to you. And it is time for you people to think what you want ahead in life. So your last words, and then we'll say Jai Hind.
Uh, Thank you very much, General Shankar, for affording me this opportunity to be able to discuss a subject that I've been following for many years. And it has been wonderful. We've received a whole lot of good questions. I'm sure this show of yours, this discussion of ours, will get many likes. And God bless you all. God bless the participants. Jai Hind.
Jai Hind, sir. Thank you.
Right.